Hey guys, Casey here with Chick Chat Collective. I am just going to talk a little bit in regards to last week's episode with Nichole Eaton. It was amazing, but it was a lot about what she calls black hole moments. It could also probably be described as rock bottom, some sort of traumatic event that happens in your life or some sort of experience like that. And she was sharing a bit about hers and then really just her journey of where she is now, which is such a great space. And she has created such a wonderful life for her and her family. And it's just really inspiring. And I really love sharing stories like that, especially for women. And I know that I'm totally, men can listen to this too, nothing against them. They just have a lot of, I feel like, other ways and avenues and things if they're experiencing anything like this. This is really an episode more for women who have experienced those types of moments or felt the best way I can describe it when I've had those experiences is you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel and you think that there's no coming out of it. You think there's no coming back from it. You think there's no way of pushing forward and having your life the way that you pictured it or planned it. So that's the way that I would describe these moments. I have a few that come to mind. I'm only going to talk about two right now, just because I don't want this episode to go on for 5 days. But I think, as children and teenagers and things like that, we always have these experiences and things that happen where we think it's the end of the world, and that is just looking back now, you realize okay, it wasn't that big of a deal. So those kinds of things are not these black hole moments or rock bottom experiences or whatever that I am referring to. Now, I do not discredit those, or it's not that I don't think that they are validated feelings. They 1000% are. I am just talking about really in your adult life, the moments that really, and nothing in my childhood was super, super bad. So I can't even speak. Some people, there are, I'm sure, experiences where they're I don't think I can come back from this. But they're also a kid. And so I feel like you have a different view of things when you're an adult. So the first one that really pops out to me is when I went to the top fertility clinic in Austin when I was trying to get pregnant in my previous marriage. And it wasn't working. It wasn't working. And I was 29 or 30 and we just weren't sure. So I was well, let's be proactive and go figure this out. And my ex-husband had a vasectomy for 18 years and we got it reversed. And we were thinking that that was probably what the issue was. Even though the reversal was successful, you still, you have a much lower sperm count than average just because of the surgery and all of those things. And so in our minds, that's really what we were thinking the problem was, and that it would be a super easy fix. But instead, they test both of you just to make sure everything is cool and good and normal and the levels are normal. And mine came back my follicle stimulating hormone came back very low. And what was the other thing? Basically my number of eggs. I can't think of the scientific term for it right now, but the follicle that creates them was low. And then even the egg count was really low for my age. I had the levels of a mid 40s lady, what is what I was told. And I had just turned 30. And so that was pretty devastating. And my ex-husband, his levels were just like a little less than average. It wasn't anything crazy. But this doctor basically said right there that I had a 1% chance of ever having my own kids, even with IVF. So with IVF, I still only had a 1% chance. Now, that is not good, guys. Like, that is not the news that you want to get, especially when you had no idea that anything was even wrong on your side of it anyways. And IVF is a super grueling, taxing on the mind and body, and crazy expensive. And so that was a really huge reality check. And it was very scary for me. I started thinking like, oh my gosh, like 1%, I'm never going to have my own children. Like, and I could go through all of this for nothing, like 1% chance. What kind of chance is that? And I just remember crying for a really long time and thinking, the thing I had wanted the most in the world at that time was to become a mom. I knew something was missing in my life, and I had always wanted to be a mom, like my whole life, right? I was finally ready. I did not want to do it too young. I came from, both my parents were 18 when they had me, and my childhood was not the best or the most stable or anything like that. So I did not want to repeat the cycle of that. So I really waited until I felt completely ready to take on the responsibility of motherhood. And I'm so glad I did. I, lived a life, got all of my crazy wild times out of my system, and wasn't like ever feeling like I missed out on anything as far as that goes. That's a whole nother topic, but that was a pretty hard pill to swallow. And so I kind of sat with it for a few days, and then I was like, you know what? I want kids, so let's do this. Like, I'm doing IVF. So did it one time with this doctor. He didn't really listen to me at all. He treated me like every other case, which was not the case, because I wasn't some 40 or 45 or 50-year-old woman trying to have kids. Like, I had just turned 30. I wasn't even at my 35 geriatric age, like what they call you if you get pregnant after age 35. So crazy, by the way. And it's like he had been doing this for so long that I don't know where he lost the ability to relate to patients as humans and like treat them all as different people and different circumstances, but he didn't listen to anything that I said, and definitely treated me like everybody else. And I go through this whole round of IVF, right? Like 5 shots a day in my stomach for 2 weeks or whatever it is. Then the egg, then all the ultrasounds, and we got to the last day really when we're supposed to figure out when the trigger shot is. And I had only had one egg that made it to like a appropriate enough size to be extracted, basically. And this doctor wouldn't do the egg retrieval surgery with less than 4 eggs. So I go into the doctor. I go by myself, actually, because my family was in town visiting in Austin, and my ex-husband like stayed home with them. So I went to the doctor by myself to check, right? See how many eggs I have. I'm so excited. And there's 1. And I'm obviously so devastated and heartbroken. And I just start crying. And in my head, I'm like, okay, well, like we need to do a different drug protocol or whatever. And the doctor goes, don't worry, this doesn't make you any less of a woman. That's what he said to me. This old, like 70-something-year-old doctor, male doctor. And it's like, I wasn't even thinking that. I wasn't even thinking that in my head, but thanks for putting that in there. Like, that dude needs to retire. I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to get sued, but retire. And that was a moment I thought I was not coming back from. I thought that they were all going to be unsuccessful. I also thought, like, how could I have just gone through all of that and put my body through all of that? And like, I can't even get to the egg retrieval part. Like, I can't even get to the part where then we put the sperm in the eggs to see if anything makes it. Like, I don't even get to do that part. That's like step one. And, I went home and I was just bawling my eyes out. My dad and my stepmom and my grandma and my grandpa were all in town visiting. And the doctor also said something like about an what is it called? Something where like we would take another woman's egg and the sperm of the husband, but then implant it into me. I can't remember what it's called right now, but basically like an egg donor, that's what it's called. And it's like, I understand that is an option, but clearly I wasn't ready to even discuss that or think about that at all. So then I decided, okay, I'm going to try IUIs because I can't go through IVF again. It was, I don't know, I think like 20 or 30 grand for all the medication and stuff. And then we didn't even make it to the egg retrieval. IUIs are where you take a bunch of hormone pills. They're not shots. And then when you're ovulating, you go to the fertility clinic and they inject your husband's sperm into you. But it's like based on your cycle and all that stuff. Well, I did that 8 times. I did that for 8 months because I just was dreading doing IVF again. And I was just like praying for a miracle. Never worked. Then I had a meeting with another doctor who was just there. And I love him. I'm not going to say his name either because I just don't know if I'm allowed to do that legally, but he's wonderful. And he was like, he just happened to be there because my other one was out of town. And he was like, why are you doing IUIs? Why aren't you doing IVF? Like, he was looking at my chart and I was like, well, I did IVF and I only had 1 egg and you guys won't do the retrieval for less than 4 eggs. And he was like, I will. He's like, are you kidding? He's like, I've taken 2 eggs and made twins. Like, he was just so confident and so such a breath of fresh air. And immediately in my head, I was like, I'm switching doctors. And then we had done a bunch of research about human growth hormone to help with eggs. And we talked to the doctor about that. And he was totally open and listening. And it was great. And I did it with him. I did like IVF round with him. And I think I have this all written down, but I think I got like 9 eggs that were able to be retrieved, which was insane. It was amazing. And then one of them turned into a normal, healthy embryo, and it was Isla, who is here, who is my daughter. But my point of this is that black hole moment, right? There was kind of 2 in 1 there. There was one right at the beginning with being told about the 1% chance, even with IVF, and how, are we even going to take that chance? Like, this is a lot to even go through as number 1, like a woman, number 2, in a marriage with a partner, number 3, like the mental and physical craziness that does to your body, number 4, the financial, impact that it has. Like, it's not cheap and it's not easy. And it's not easy on a relationship. I'm already kind of hot tempered and have a hot head, and those drugs, like, they will make you a crazy person. But, well, and then the other black hole moment, right, was figuring out after the first round that it didn't work. And so it was almost like that doctor's prediction of the 1% chance, even with IVF, it was like all coming true. And whereas for me, I still had hope, but then he just kind of crushed me again. But then, right. And it took a long time. Like, I did that IVF that 1 month, and then I took a month off, and then I did IUIs for 8 months. And then I took a month off, and then I did IVF again. So it took almost a year, really. But I ended up getting that 1 healthy embryo. And that's not typical either, guys. Like, most people who are 30, almost 31 at the time then, have like, my girlfriend just did egg retrieval at like 36 and had like 20 something, 20 plus eggs. So like my little 9, it was, for me, it was amazing in so much, but I mean, that was definitely so much lower than like the normal average standard. And then only getting 1 out of those that like made it, that also is not typical, right? Like there should be more. There should have been more if I were just like a normal case. But I'm not. I never have been, and I never will be. I'm freaking quickly learning that about things in my life, y'all. I am just like not the average. I'm just not. And it's okay. I'm embracing it. But to go through all of that, and then even to get that healthy, normal embryo, right? It was such an amazing moment. Now, that's not it, right? Then you have to implant, and then you have to pray that the pregnancy survives. It's like I wasn't there yet. I wasn't to my end goal, but I was definitely a huge step closer. And that hope gave me the motivation to do it again. Yeah, I did IVF 3 more times after that and got several more eggs, several more healthy, normal embryos. But that leads, those will never be implanted due to the next second black hole moment, which is the last one I'm going to talk about. So, fast forward, I have Isla. I'm so happy, right? I finally, because it took me a while to go through the IVF cycles more, because I was going to just implant all of my kids kind of like back to back to back. So I wanted to do it all first, get all the IVF out of the way, and then start having all the babies. So it still took me a little while after the Isla embryo to actually finally implant. And they found something wrong with my uterus that needed to be fixed and all these things. But that leads me to the second black hole moment. Isla was 4 months old. And my ex-husband I was in Charlotte and he was back in Austin. I was told, setting up his company still. So that's why, I moved out here 7 months pregnant by myself, pretty much. He would visit like once or twice a month, and then came out the day before my C-section was scheduled with Isla. And then like 2 weeks after she was born, he went back to Austin. So I really had been this kind of just doing it by myself. And I had been really longing for the family dynamic. And, like, so are you going to be done setting up this company? When are you going to actually like move here with us? And it's kind of hard. Being a first time mom. And I went through a pretty traumatic birth experience with Isla, and then ended up having to have an emergency C-section with her. And so I don't know, it was just like not your typical, super woohoo, we did it. Like, that wasn't so bad. It was pretty bad. I'll get into that in another episode. But then I found out when she was 4 months old that he had been cheating on me for almost a year. So pretty much all of my pregnancy, right? And I was so happy during my pregnancy, except for weird shit that was going on in my marriage, that it was like my intuition knew and my insides knew, but my brain just wouldn't allow me to really figure it out. So it's weird because I was so happy and on cloud 9 to finally be pregnant. But then I also had this weird feeling, and weird things started happening like in my marriage. And so when I finally confirmed and really found out, like, the proof was there in front of my eyes, number one, it was just a shock, because even though I knew, I hadn't proven it. And then there it was. So it was a very shocking feeling. And then I'm 4 months postpartum. I had just gone through a lot of stuff I was going to have 5 more kids after Isla. I had 5 more healthy embryos. And I just saw my whole world like crumble right in front of me. My whole life. Everything I worked so hard for. And I don't know how to explain it really, besides you think there's no coming out of it. You think there's no coming back from this. I knew more than I knew anything that my life was ruined. And it's funny to say that now because my life is so much more fulfilled now than it ever has been. But there was no way for me to see that then. There was no way for me to see in that moment where I was going to be years down the road. And I don't think there's a way for anyone to. I truly don't. I think you have to go through the experience and you have to push on day by day, even if you don't want to. Truly, the only thing that kept me from not laying in bed all day was Isla. It was like I had a 4-month-old. I didn't have the option to just do whatever my pre-baby self would have done in a situation like that. There was no option. I had a little perfect baby to take care of and to keep alive and to love, and that was it. So I had to experience what I was experiencing, which another way I would put it is like an outer body experience. You sometimes feel like you're like in a movie or like you're watching your life from an outside perspective. You can't actually believe that it's your life or like it's happening to you. Like I remember I'd just be driving and it would just hit me. Like it would just hit me and it would be like, holy shit. Like this actually did happen. He actually has been doing this for this long and lying to you for this long and like cheating on you during your whole pregnancy. I mean, it's so hard to believe. It really is. It is shocking. It is shocking to where it takes your breath away. It takes everything away to be betrayed like that and lied to so easily. Like I just can't lie like that. It's just not in me. The guilt would just eat me alive until there was nothing. And so to think that like someone's capable of that who's supposed to love you more than anything, that's also a huge shock. It's all very eye-opening and you're like, holy crap, can I trust anybody? I mean, I started like being like, can I trust anybody? Can I trust my family? Can I trust my friends? Like, is everybody out to get me? Is everybody screwing me over in some way? Is everybody lying to my face? Like, you just don't know anymore. And the one thing that I did know is that this was not something, no matter how much it wanted to be put on me and blamed on me because I'm the bitch or whatever the excuses are. I wasn't the one who did that at all. I would never do that. And just because it was done to me by somebody, it doesn't mean that like that represents me or my character or my worth in any way. And that's really what I held on to in Isla. And I knew there were some things that went down then where I was like, this is over, right? Like at first I wasn't completely sure that I wasn't just going to freaking take this and try to put it behind me and move on and try to live happy, which for me, it never would have happened. Like, I just cannot be treated like that, period. Like I deserve better than that. And I would have just been miserable for the rest of my life. And, I'm just so thankful that it got as bad as it did to where it made it very easy for me to be like, you know what? 12 years flushed down the toilet, 2 years of infertility things, flush down the toilet, like, bye. Bye. I can't do this anymore. But it's because there was so much more waiting for Isla and I. And so now, fast forward years later, I'm engaged to who I know is my actual soulmate. It's funny because we really are like the same person. He is me in a guy, and I am him in a girl form. And it's really crazy, but it's really amazing. And we have had 2 sons naturally, not even trying, no sort of fertility help at all, right? And I was much older than when I was going through all the IVF stuff. 2 normal, healthy, perfect baby boys. And I am supported and loved in a way that I haven't ever experienced. Like, I feel like this is actually what love is and what it's supposed to be like. And it's just really wonderful. But like I said, in that black hole moment, and that was really like a black hole experience. It wasn't just a moment, it lasted a long time. But I never, ever would have imagined where I would be now. And so it's so much better, right? It's so much better where I am now than what I had even had planned. Than if I would have stayed with my ex and then kept having all these babies and never having a partner around to help me or actually be in this family unit with me, right? But like, oh, or maybe building our dream house and blah blah blah. It's like all these things that don't actually matter when you think about it. And so I just want to tell you, if you're in one of those moments or experiences and you think that there's no light out of the end of the tunnel, you think that your whole life is ruined. And I'll tell you, it all came out, right? It was the affair. It was our money. It wasn't just one thing. It was a bunch of different things. I truly believed my life was over. And I had to just figure out how to freaking survive with my kid. And it was multiple things that came crashing down that I had to like dig my way out of. But I did. And here I am. And so I'm just here to tell you guys that it does get better. I promise it does. And I know that deep down inside that it is only going to get better, but you have to give it time and you have to put in the work. And the work literally can just be getting out of bed, doing some breath work or some yoga or some meditation or some journaling or signing up for therapy. Therapy really helped me. Talking to a friend about it. I don't think keeping it all inside and trying to figure it all out and work it all out yourself in your head is good. I don't think it's good for anybody. I've always been a talker my whole life. And that's one thing that, my ex would say about me is like, you talk too much, or you talk to people too much about stuff. And like, he never talked to anybody about anything. So it's like, okay, I just don't think that it is good to hold it all inside. I think it will eat you up. And I think it's good to get other people's perspectives. Doesn't mean you have to listen to them or take their advice, but make sure it's people who love you and have your best interest at heart and who want to see you happy. And, so that can be family, friends, whoever it may be. Don't talk to anyone negative or anyone who you feel like about. And then go to therapy if you can. There are a lot of resources out there. I know therapy can be expensive, but there are a lot of resources out there too. And day by day by day, I promise, like, this experience is happening because there's something bigger and better waiting for you if you allow it. You have to allow it. That's the thing. You can't sit and wallow forever on the circumstance. You have to get up and keep going. And it may take a while, and that's totally understandable. But this is your one life. This is it. This is what you've got. And it's not going to last very long, no matter how old you are, right? They don't last long. We are not here very long, guys. And so do what makes you happy. Try to find it, try to figure it out, and then do it. And slowly but surely, your light is going to come back and you're going to start feeling like yourself again. And then you're going to start feeling like a way better version of yourself than you ever could have even imagined. And then you're going to be like, holy crap, thank God that happened to me. Like, thank God I went through all of that. Number one, I am so strong. Like I am one of the strongest people that I know. 1000%, without a doubt. I can say that so confidently with all of the things that I have been through in my life from a child until now. It's pretty crazy and extensive, the list of shit that I have gone through and had to come out of or rise above. And I'm just so proud of myself. And I want everyone to feel that, and some people don't have crazy black hole moments, and that is fine too. Like, you are one of the lucky ones, and that's amazing. And so be supportive and helpful to someone in your life who is. Like, reach out. If you know someone's going through a hard time or a super difficult time, even just to reach out, even if they don't want to talk. I didn't always want to talk. I wanted to be left alone sometimes. But just to reach out of people being like, hey, how are you doing? Hey, can I do anything for you? Hey, do you need to talk? Anything like that. Even if they don't respond, guys, I'm telling you, it matters and it's important. And it will help them just to know that people care. And that is one thing I had. I had a huge support system of people who just gathered around me and were like, you're going to get through this. We're going to help you get through this. Like, from the West Coast to the East Coast, I had my whole freaking crew, like, number one, shocked. Everyone was totally shocked. But number two, everyone was like, if you can't do this, we're going to help you do this. And so it was just very, very important and very needed and so appreciated. Like, I'm so grateful for all of that support. So that really is just my advice. And that's my little kind of spiel on that. And I hope it helps somebody out there. As always, if you want to send me a DM, I'm at casey.n.laird, Laird, on Instagram. So please feel free to do that. And I will talk to you guys later.